everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Guys, welcome back to another Tuesday. We are edging closer and closer to end of the year. That's how much time has flown. Time flies when you're having fun. Thank you so much for your consistent support. Thank you so much for your ongoing enthusiasm, optimism, and I suppose just tangible and really explicit affirmation. Diabulela Kakulu. Before we begin, because we're talking something a bit heavy today, look who's here. Let's touch base on housekeeping a little bit. I suppose the first big announcement would be we are going to wrap up in November, very early in November. So this is us starting to wind down. So I don't want to shock you guys. Consistency is what we're about, and respect is what we're about, because I've built a precedence and an expectation, so I know what you expect of me. So to adjust those expectations in November, possibly the first week or the second week of November, I'm going to step down for the year. I'm tired. I also have other things to wrap up, like the practice, the academic calendar, and so on and so forth. And secondly, to obviously explain the inconsistency in terms of quality drop, presence of subtitles, absence of subtitles. In terms of hierarchy of significance, the one thing that will always be there consistently is that on a Tuesday I will release the video, but circumstance sometimes influences what else I'm able to add. Have we been able to have a mic? Have we been able to have a ring light? Have we been able to use the same team, etc, etc? So when life throws something unexpected about the channel, I try my very best to keep it to the basic, that the brand promise was this, and when we lose the frills and the aesthetic, I will still deliver the core of it. So stuff has happened. We've lost a couple of things, gained a couple of things, had to redirect finances to attend to a couple of things. So sometimes things we pay for, if I decide we're not going to pay for this month, then we go without it and just deliver the channel. So I know somebody brought out sound. We were shooting in PE at the time, different room. I acknowledge that. I think the sound in this video is better. We've just tested it. Subtitles are sometimes there, sometimes not there. We're piloting, when do we have them there? Is it a worthwhile spend to have them all the time, etc, etc? But when I'm off the screen, I will think properly around these concepts, but we've tried them out. We know what works, we know what doesn't work. We've lost a couple of things, and when we've lost those things, we will deliver that which still matters. So my apologies for the inconsistency, but I'm hoping the history that we have built will tell you that if I remove something that you find value in, it was extraordinary circumstances. I don't think we're forgetting anything else on housekeeping. Thank you for the steady growth. We are touching base on something that has been in my heart for some time right now, and that is, I suppose, attempting to explain what is the relationship between rape or sexual assault and self-destructive behavior, or behavior that is seemingly unhelpful. Obviously, because I'm also responding to the insensitivity that as a society we seem to have around survivors who exhibit such behaviors, because they don't really draw out empathy. Things like self-medication, self-mutilation, risky sexual behavior, etc, etc, where it just looks like, oh my god, this person is so promiscuous, oh my god, this person is cutting themselves, oh my god, this person's attention seeking, so much that people lose the empathy for the trauma that they've gone through, further reinforcing the feelings of shame that they already have, that make them feel like that perhaps I deserved it. It invites slut shaming, because risky sex is often very common following a sexual assault, and sometimes people then doubt the gravity of the matter if you are making yourself available to sex this frequently. And I wanted to weigh in, especially for the survivors themselves, who are carrying the burden of guilt on top of everything else, where they just feel like, even the people that support me are wasting their time, or maybe I did deserve it, etc, etc. Let's take, for instance, the common phenomena of self-harming and sometimes suicidal behavior. The one thing that is very dehumanizing about rape is how personal and how intimate it actually is, and very few perpetrators actually use protection when they rape. So most of the time the semen is inside of you. So this is the feeling like there's something about them that was left permanently inside of me. I cannot tell you how disgusting the thought of someone's semen who you don't love is inside of you, let alone one that you collected through rape. And because semen isn't something you purge, you don't really see it coming out, where you feel like the dirt is out of you. So most of them feel like there is something permanently dirty that is inside of me. And you'll see most rape survivors don't detail a feeling of sadness, they detail a feeling of hollowness, where they're just like, I feel hollow and dead inside. And you see things like cutting yourself become very common. Self-mutilation isn't only a symptom of personality disorders, it's quite common in trauma as well. Because one, most people will tell you that I feel dead. Nothing will make you feel alive like the warmth of blood and pain, you know. So sometimes it's literally just to feel like I'm not dead. I don't know how terrifying a feeling of death possibly is, where you just feel like I feel nothing. I don't feel anything. Any pain that could match what I'm feeling inside is welcome. Then you'll see most people actually injure themselves or start drawing to things that bring them some sensation, and intense sensation at that. And pain is usually one where they are in control, and one that I suppose reminds them of some tenderness. Because if it's sikile, even if you touch water, even if climate is too harsh, your wounds are likely to remind you that ouch, 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 ouch. And that feeling of ouch, believe it or not, is stimulating, comforting, and sometimes soothing. I know this is very annoying to the person that is the onlooker, because the scarring is usually very superficial, so it's like not deep enough to die. So they think you're drawing attention that should make us terrified that you wanted to die, but the scars are so minor that it didn't look like you were going to die anyway. So they get super irritated at the false alarm continuously of why are you bleeding, what's going on. So it's that feeling of hollow. I empathize deeply with that feeling. Because I don't suffer from a psychiatric condition, I've got enough of a dose of motivation and drive that I just don't know what it feels like to have an absence of that, where you just feel like a box and you're untouched by any experience. Everything is just flying off you. I don't care what desperate means they then used to bring themselves back to life and to bring a feeling and sensation and something to their bodies again. And I hope with psychotherapy, you start substituting that with healthier ways of inviting feeling back into your life. Binge eating is another common one, and you will know in the history of humanity, oral pleasure is one of the very, very early experiences of human functioning. Before you know anything else, one thing you know is that food is soothing. You know, from infancy, you don't know much else about the rest of your bodily functions, but whether you're crying, you're going to be fed. Whether you're restless, you're going to be fed. Whether you're too warm, you're going to be fed. One thing that we attach comfort to is sensation, that is oral, and mostly that comes in the format of food. So it's very common for all of us, even people that are suffering from a trauma, to seek comfort in food when we're in dire distress. Stimulation, as you grow older, starts having different inputs, and you experiment with different ways of obtaining stimulation. But evolutionary, the mouth is the one, food is the one, source of life, source of comfort, source of nurturing, all the way back to breastfeeding experiences. One thing about stuff coming in your mouth, it feels good. It feels so good and comforting at a deep and primal level, because the introduction of food was also very primal and retrospective, very, very early on in life experiences. So you'll see that all of a sudden, when someone is in perpetual distress, their relationship to food tends to be malfunctional, because the pain is just as deep and as intense, and their need or craving for pleasure and comfort and soothing. Because remember, also most food things are attached to maternal warmth, because for a long time in your life you're usually fed by your mother, or a bigger and warmer caregiver, so much that things that have to do with you and eating are also very attached to the feeling of home, feeling of maternal nurturing, feeling of warmth. And of course, when you're broken to your absolute core, things that are coming into your mouth, I get why they will trigger a warm and fuzzy feeling, even if you don't understand where it's coming from. So a maladaptive relationship with food also isn't unlikely following sexual assault and sometimes alcohol abuse, etc., etc. There's something very dissociating about lack of sobriety, be it you high, be it you drunk, but just a temporary escape from reality. I don't know what flashbacks feel like of sexual nature, but I know from other traumas like car accidents that I've had, they're quite intrusive. So I don't know how agonizing it must feel to almost see your perpetrator all the time in your head and in your sleep if you're having nightmares. That sometimes just buying yourself a couple of hours of not being here, by being drunk or by being high, I take it it's like it's not great and healthy comfort, but it's comfort. Yes, it's temporary, but a break is better than nothing, I suppose. So before you judge why they are suddenly drunk all the time, because obviously alcohol is a disinhibiting kind of state of being. So people tend to be very careless and very reckless when they are drunk, making them vulnerable. So because if you are availing yourself to a setup, it could potentially invite harmful behavior towards you again. So there's these very apathetic statements that people make, that it's like you're inviting to be in danger again, because why are you drunk? Why are you always out partying? And why? Be glad you don't understand why on a subjective account. I'm glad I don't personally understand why. And as a female, you're always forever nursing the feeling of when is it going to be you, because it might very well be you. So I want to opt for compassion rather than judgment of something that I don't understand. So yes, that temporary escape is what substances and self-medication bring. Symptom relief from the flashbacks, from the anxiety, from the nightmares, from the hypervigilance, all of the symptoms that tend to accompany a traumatic event. So that's what makes them drink excessively sometimes, because, well, it's nice to be drunk because I think about something else except what I think about when I'm sober. Additionally, there's also something numbing about it, where you just feel like it's washing away that which is the disgust that I feel inside. And let's touch briefly on risky sex as well. You'll see that it accompanies especially people that perhaps knew their perpetrator, or the perpetrator was somewhat familiar to them, where they just lose their sense of trust in the capacity to make a judgment call about the danger of another human being. Because if you know them, it means you had a prior opinion about them, maybe even were okay having them in your close proximity, you were out drinking with them, they're your neighbor, you took a lift from them, etc., etc. When someone feels like there was some degree of acquaintanceship between them and this person, makes them feel like, I don't know when this is going to happen. I can't make a call about someone. I'm naive. I'm stupid. So much that they're intentional next time about an outcome. So they will choose to sleep with you. There's something empowering about the fact that I chose it. I'm not at the mercy of circumstance. I'm not at the mercy of the actions of another person. Generally, humans don't welcome a feeling of vulnerability very easily, where you just feel like you were a victim of misfortune. Actually, because that makes you feel like you can't preempt your odds next time, and you can't prevent the circumstance from happening again, because it's completely out of your control. The most disempowering feeling, and one actually therapy should move towards, is simply accepting that very little of what happened had anything to do with you, because that makes them feel like, oh, by the way, so it means it can happen tomorrow and the next day and again and again. And sadly, the answer is actually yes, it can. And that's more terrifying, to literally live like you're just waiting for luck or lack of luck in deciding the odds of your future. So most people then pick their odds. They will choose who to sleep with. They will choose how many times to sleep with them. They will choose the lack of sanctity in the nature of the sex that they're having, because they don't give a SHIT. It's empowering to know that I'm choosing it. I don't care how ugly they are. I don't care how dirty they look. I will choose them. I will choose them. I will choose them. And going back to that feeling of internal dirt, there's something about pain that we swallow better when we feel like we deserved it or we saw it coming. So this is why they tend to choose the power by initiating the sex, seeking out the sex and imposing the sex, sometimes because they feel like, if I chose something. And also you'll see it's like they lower the bar in the class of sexual partners, that they sleep with people you wouldn't ordinarily assume to be their sexual counterparts. A person they wouldn't typically go for as a mate, to match this feeling of lowness, to match this feeling of sadness, this feeling of, I'm so dirty. So it's like, do things that will make you feel like you deserved it. Let the outside match the inside kind of feeling. So it may look like, hey, ulula, words like that, where they just like, uyafikeleleka, whoever can manage an erection, say khona naphayana. And sometimes it's that feeling when they can't look at sex as an institution of sanctity anymore. It lost some soulful vibes. It's just not that deep, because previously they likely believed, sex is supposed to be this dance between souls, eye contact, etc., etc. And rape will teach you how devalued sex can be. And sometimes you just want to pick a stance. You don't want to believe that sex is the soulful experience anymore. You just pick a stance that maybe it's not that deep, maybe it's just a means to an end, maybe it's a whatever. And then they start engaging like that. When you're coming from a stance of self-righteousness, when you're coming from a stance of, I suppose, pedestal living, where you're just attached, and especially for the people that are conservative in nature, where sex was just a private, beautiful, sanctified type of exchange, stance that actually maybe it's not. To some people it's not. And the behavioral gains of, especially for the people that are conservative and have kept privately and very intentional about body count and those things, where they just feel like, I thought my kuzipata kakuhle, quotation marks, because this isn't really such a thing, didn't gain me anything. It's upsetting, it's angering to just feel like lento. So why would I uphold that again? It's not uncommon for them to swing it all the way to the other extreme, because baby pilot extreme and the keeping to yourself and the retaining sexual purity didn't do much for them, and they have lived experience that it didn't do much for them. Especially if you're religious and you think the more good that I do, the more likely that God will withhold the bed for me. And you realize, no, the bed wasn't withheld, it came gunning for you. You seem to think, I wasted my time not living in the other side. So it's not uncommon for them to take it all the way to the other side, because their tried and tested side deeply let them down. So those are some of the common occurrences that happen. So in your journey back to a place of wholeness, in a journey back in figuring out what is still you, what needs to change, what views can you no longer hold, because rape is also a loss of innocence. You can't believe the things you believed about humans anymore, and about yourself, about sense of safety, and about the world. So it's a lot of untangling, of taking that piece, putting it back where it belongs, taking that piece and putting it back where it belongs. And sometimes when you're trying on a new fit because your old fit is gone, you will try the wrong fit for your size. Sometimes less judgment on how you walked the journey back to you. Just keep one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other. You will stumble, you will fall, you will take a seat down. Sometimes you will regress and go back. Therapy isn't this thing, because I know some people will also feel like, I let my therapist down, or I let you down, you believe so much in me. No, therapy is this contract to say, in your journey back, however slowly or fast you choose to walk it, I am choosing to be a co-traveler with you, so that you don't do it alone. It's not this thing that, well, I'm supporting you as long as you are prim and proper in your recovery journey. Recovery is a messed up journey. Be gracious in sorting out a mess that you didn't create. You're sorting it out because, this is stuff that is happening to you in your life. So you're taking responsibility for something that actually isn't your responsibility. So you can't judge yourself for that. So yes, substance abuse, binge eating, self-medicating, self-mutilation, promiscuity, zonke ezazinto that tend to accompany and be classified as sequelae of sexual trauma. I actually do have explanations, and I've attempted in this short space of time to weigh in and just telling you a few, so that you can feel normalized. You're not a freak, you weren't deserving of it, you're not pathetic, you're not stupid, you're not a whore, you're not whatever society chooses to call you. You're a person doing their best to unscramble the mess, being an address rehearsal. Yeah, you. Okay, away with the Tingle conversation. I'm stepping off, and I will see you guys next Tuesday and a couple of more Tuesdays after that before you step off for the year. Bye.